is establishing a new American Advisory Council. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
I have one.
I have a
Been
question.
moved and seconded. Can I get a second? Then we'll entertain questions.
I have a question.
Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Patterson. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Harris. I'll entertain questions. Councilmember Gruber, and then Councilmember, was that Lupien?
Yes.
And then Councilmember Lupien.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just looking for clarity on. I'm pulling up the agenda review, the questions. It says the item was pulled.
Yes, because the questions were not able to be answered. So because the communications director is actually on vacation until next week, so we didn't want you to proceed without having your questions answered.
So in that case, so Madam Clerk, this item is not up for consideration? Or I'll hold it?
If you could hold it in
261?
committee,
I'll hold
and
it,
hopefully we'll be able to get you answers by Monday.
Mayor,
Be
does that
able
have
to-
any ramifications for the conduct of the board? I mean, I wouldn't want to hold it up just for questions if there's something that needs to be.
No, it wouldn't have any. I think that one of the changes was that there was supposed to be a council member that was appointed to the board, and I don't think that that was in the legislation, so that will probably be an amendment. But we can add that amendment to the legislation and then hopefully be able to proceed on Tuesday at the regular board meeting.
All right, so council members, if you can just withdraw your motions, if you're okay with withdrawing them, and then I'll hold this item, and then we'll get answers to those questions, and then we can proceed on Tuesday.
Works for me.
So 261 we're holding committee, and then we'll move on to 262, which is authorizing an agreement to provide procurement and certification support for small business and women minority-owned business enterprises. Questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. And I saw this came back in agenda review a little bit too. This is something that I've heard Director Campbell talk about quite a bit, and I know the city's made a lot of investments in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I just want to get a sense of, this is what, $150,000 out of the $1 million that was passed for race recommendations.
Yes.
Is there a queue of other things that you expect to be coming? Will there be an opportunity for council input on some of those things?
So one of the things that we did speak with the council president at our one-on-one about that we're looking at is establishing a fast track for MWBE businesses like they have in Erie County and Onondaga County. It's a partnership between the city of Buffalo and the city of Syracuse and their counties. And so we are in discussion right now with the county of Monroe to see if we could establish that fast track. A couple weeks ago, we had the new MWBE commissioner for the state of New York came and met with Constance and her team. They're really excited about what we're doing here in Rochester and wanting to work with us. But those are one of the things that we are behind the scenes on when it comes down to being able to help our businesses, especially our minority and women-owned businesses, be fast-tracked into the system. So that's one thing that hopefully we'll be able to come to you in the next couple weeks with, or next couple months with. And I do know that there is also legislation that that Constance is going to brief council on, I believe, in your August work session. And we'll bring that legislation forth hopefully after that meeting in September.
Can we just get some type of, certainly those two things, again, I think MWBE has been a place of emphasis by your administration. I think it makes a lot of sense to move forward in that direction. But can we get, I'm assuming that's not going to take up the full $1 million. Can we get maybe a work session in place for how the rest of those recommendations are going to be prioritized?
Absolutely.
And sorry, Mayor, last question. Do you get a sense, because I know you started this race commission in partnership with County Executive Bello, is the county putting money forward towards implementation also?
So the hope would we would do this in partnership. I know that Dr. Archie and Dr. Candace Lucas has been working closely together on recommendations. The first thing that we did was really look at the race report, decide what was in the city's wheelhouse, what was in the county's wheelhouse, and what we could do jointly together. Those things that we believe that we can do jointly, we're working on a strategy and a plan of implementation. Hopefully I'll be able to get a meeting with the county executive to discuss next steps with the race report. as we know that the community is very interested on what we're doing going forward. So we want to be able to move on to things that's in the city's wheelhouse and not hold up on those, because we know that it has a direct impact on what's happening with the people in our community. And so we'll continue to move forward on those things and continue to look forward to working with the county. And I know that, as I said, Dr. Archie and Dr. Lucas have been working closely together to outline those next steps.
Thanks.
Anything else on 262?
Move it.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Introductory number 263 is approving wage and salary increases for employees of the Rochester Housing Authority. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Introductory number 280 is authorizing an agreement to collect unpaid assessments for violations of traffic, parking, and municipal code requirements. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Introductory 281 is amending the municipal code to continue the waiver and discounting of certain licensing and permit fees for businesses and vendors recovering from the coronavirus emergency. And I would ask for an amendment to 281, a motion to amend to, the amendment corrects a typographical error as waivers and discounts are not to extend beyond a single permit year. So before we vote on introductory 281, may I have a motion to amend item number 281 with the language that I just read?
Move it.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we will vote on introductory number 281. Any questions, comments, or concerns on 281? Yes, Councilmember Gruber?
Thank you, Chairman Evans. Just the question that came back, I was asking how this aligns to the budget that was passed, and it says there's the exception of fire prevention permits, and there's about a $60,000 expected revenue loss. I'm just wondering what kind of went into, first of all, which permits are those, and what went into that thinking?
What went into the thinking of extending the business fees, the waiving the business fees?
Well, it sounds like for all the other fees that we're waiving, that was planned prior to the June budget vote, except for the 60,000. I just wanted to know what if something changed.
I would look to Chris to answer that question.
Yeah, so in terms of those permits specifically, we weren't expecting necessarily those to be waived, so that's why no adjustment was made.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Back to the original motion, introductory 281. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. And then introductory number 282 is amending ordinance number 2020-55 relating to the firefighter physical agility tests. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Been moved.
Second.
There's a second? There a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. That concludes the business before the Finance Committee. If there are no other items, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I call the Neighborhood and Business Development Committee to order, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Lupian.
Here.
Councilmember Melendez.
Here.
President Scott.
Here.
All right, introductory number 264, authorizing the sale of real estate. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Wow, I don't have to do the whole moved by, seconded by. Okay. Okay, and so we've got a motion and a second, and now we vote. All in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed to the item, please say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 265, authorizing a lease for space located at 923, 925 Genesee Street. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed to the item, please say nay. Item passes. I'm still waiting for like Conda to, I'm still waiting for Hazel to kick in. It's like built in now, beat with a stick. All right, introductory number 266, authorizing a lease for space located at 1099 J Street. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
And item moved and properly seconded. All in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed to the item, please say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 267, authorizing the mandatory agreement for the Zombie and Vacant Property Reduction and Prevention Initiative Round 2. Questions, comments, or concerns? Really nothing, Mitch?
Thank you for the opportunity, Councilmember Patterson.
Okay. I see you there. All right. So we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and now we vote on the item. All in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed to the item, please say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 279, amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of certain Beechwood neighborhood properties. Public hearing to be held at 5 p.m. after the July 15, 2021 committee's meeting. Council Member Lupien. Nothing?
Well, I would like to comment that, I know that there's been a lot of controversy over this item. I've been in close communications with Connected Communities, who really did a lot of the engagement on this. Went parcel by parcel, talked with the neighbors next door, saw what they'd like to see in that vacant land, and so came up with, this rezoning that is hopefully getting us in line with the comprehensive plan. So, it's something that supports new development. The prices of construction are high and wouldn't support single-family home development. And so, thinking about expanding what we have in Beechwood to duplexes on these vacant lands would be a welcome addition to the neighborhood in my estimation. And so it's something that I'm in support of. And I'll, if anybody else has a comment, I'll move the item.
I'm just, just the commentary. I'm really happy to hear that you're taking into consideration the cost of housing and the notion.
Can't hear
So
you.
just really happy to hear that you're taking into consideration the cost of housing in your thinking around what should be going in there and the reason, and understanding that single-family housing is kind of a hard thing to do in this market. That's really impressive. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the item, please say aye. Aye. All opposed to the item, please say nay. Item passes. With there being no other business before this committee, we stand adjourned.
Okay, I'm going to call the Parks and Public Works Committee to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Present.
Councilmember Pio,
Here.
President Scott.
All right, and let me echo my colleagues before me. It is wonderful to be back in person, see the DES team. I can see Commissioner Jones wearing a full suit. I'm not sure what happened on Zoom, but
We don't want to know.
we'll get started with introductory number 268, appropriating funds for the fall 2021 lead service line replacement program 1A. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I actually would like to just ask a question. This is one of the first places where we're going to see ARPA dollars spent, and Commissioner Jones and Mayor Warren, I know this in particular is a area of incredible interest and focus for the DES team for the last 4 years, longer probably. Can you just explain for the public how we ended up with the, let's see, I want to make sure I get this right, 756 services that will be replaced, and is there an opportunity to potentially do more over the course of the ARPA funds?
I can start and then I'll turn it over to the commissioner. This is just a start. Our hope is that there will be a transportation bill that would allow us to do more of the lead replacement. But we wanted to make sure that this part of it was a part of our CIP, and this was allocated in the CIP. And so that's the reason why you see this one item. But we're hopeful, and I do believe that I saw something coming out of the federal government about something that happened or may have happened today regarding some of the transportation. So we want to make sure that we utilize the dollars where they're most needed, and if we're able to use transportation dollars to replace the lead service lines, then that's where we will want to utilize those dollars instead of from this particular pot of money.
Got it. Well, thank you, and thanks for the prioritization, as I know it's a place that probably all council members can agree we need to be spending some dollars on. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 269, authorizing agreements and appropriations for the 2023 Preventative Maintenance Group 1 project. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 270, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state March Caselli program aid eligible costs of the Highway Preventative Maintenance Group 1 Transportation Federal Aid Project and appropriating funds therefore. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 271, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state March Caselli program aid eligible costs of the Preventative Maintenance Northwest Group 12 Transportation Federal Aid Project and appropriating funds therefore. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, I said that already. Any opposed? Did I say that, Hazel? No oppositions. Motion passes. Introductory number 272, authorizing consolidated funding applications and agreements for 2021-2022. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Can I just ask a question about, is there any sense of, because some of these projects that we applied for have been applied for in the past too, is there any sense that there's any traction on any of them, things that are maybe more likely or less likely, or is it all just kind of a shot in the dark?
It's the way that the state has us actually apply for CFA dollars, and so depending on what the state's priorities are, what the governor's priorities are, that's how the projects will be funded. But we're hopeful that we always get some dollars, and so we can't tell you which ones will be funded or would not be. It all is based on the alignment and the scoring of the group that actually looks at each of these and score them out. And so, but we're hopeful that some of them will be funded, especially those that build upon our Rock the Riverway program.
Sure, makes sense. Any other council members with questions about the CFA applications? If not, I'll take a motion on 272.
Move it.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 273, authorizing an agreement with the United States Coast Guard for the Resiliency and Economic Development Initiative projects. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And finally, introduction number 274, amending the municipal code with respect to the back-in angle parking.
Question.
Councilmember Patterson.
Thank you. Addressed it, Commissioner, but just hoping for the public, if you could talk a little bit about why you feel this is needed, how it's going to be posted, and where it will be required.
Regarding the backing in the angled parking, it provides us with a safer alternative to pulling in and backing out when we do new street constructions, specifically Arnett Boulevard, South Avenue Extension, the Central Avenue section of town, and the last project, which would have great results, Sager Drive. It allows us better parking alternatives. It allows us with better access, and it makes the streets safer. This is a recommendation from the Federal Highway Authority, and it's something that we adhere to, and we will be reaching out with our traffic engineering folks and our community, making sure that the pros for backing in on an angle is there. Sager Drive, for example, we're able to reconfigure that, changing it from a two-way to a one-way, and increase the number of parking spots there, where there once was not enough parking, to now there's more than adequate parking to meet the needs of that area. So it really addresses the concerns from a safety standpoint for parking.
Will the areas where this will be required be heavily posted so that drivers understand that they have a requirement to back in?
Absolutely. On Sager Drive, if you happen to drive down Sager Drive, we have that signage up now, and we actually do more posting and basically cite the ordinance on there. And what we normally do when we change the ordinance is that we're heavy on education at first and light on enforcement. Well, it's our goal to educate and let people know that this is the ordinance, this is what you have to adhere to before we go to the enforcement mechanism.
Okay. And just to reiterate, this will not be a citywide requirement, will only be in the areas where it is posted.
Exactly, where we've done changes to the actual parking structure, like on Arnett Boulevard, South Avenue Extension, Central Avenue, and Sager Drive, where we made those adjustments to the actual parking grid, we would utilize that approach and basically educate the public on the need to do it that way.
Thank you, sir. No other questions.
Commissioner, might this impact the way that parking requirements are for like new developments and things like that?
Potentially. We always look at geometric changes to the streets and how they flow. We do a deep dive on our traffic engineering studies and making sure that it is appropriate there. Some streets may not have the geometrical ability to adhere to this. But specifically, when we looked at something like Sager Drive or Central Avenue, it enhances their parking ability and gives you more parking and makes it safer for people who actually park there or visit there or who live there.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Can't see, but I don't hear anything. If not, I'll take a motion. Move?
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And that concludes the work of the Parks and Public Works Committee. Thank you very much for all the hard work.
Vice President Lightfoot is not able to be with us today, so Councilmember Harris will present for Public Safety, Recreation, and Human Services.
Okay, the Public Safety, Recreation, and Human Service Committee will convene, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice President Lightfoot, Councilmember Gruber,
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Pio,
Here.
President Scott.
Here.
Introductory number 275, authorizing the agreement for the Biz Kids Youth Entrepreneurship Program. Questions, comments, or concern? Motion, need a motion and a second.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Shall I go back and say all opposed? Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. Introductory number 276, authorizing agreements for towing services. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion and a second.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Introductory 277, appropriating funds for a rock music program. Questions, comments, and concerns? Can I get a motion and a second?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Any opposed or abstentions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Introductory number 278, authorizing agreement for the 2021 Cool Suite Program. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Motion and a second is needed.
So moved. Second.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Introductory number 283, authorizing agreement to create policies and procedures and training necessary to allow the Police Accountability Board to conduct investigations. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion passes. And that will conclude what we have on the table for the Public Safety, Recreation, and Human Services. If there's no other business before this committee, we will stand adjourned.
We'll reconvene at 5 o'clock for a public hearing in this chamber.
Please take your seats.
Good evening and welcome to this public hearing of the Rochester City Council. The council will come to order and the clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Evans. Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lupian.
Here.
Councilmember Melendez.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Pio.
Here.
Vice President Lightfoot. President Scott.
Here.
Pursuant to law, public hearing will now be had on the following matter: amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of certain Beechwood neighborhood properties. Introductory number 279. Any persons desiring to speak in reference to said matter will now be heard.
You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, council members, for your time. As the founding executive director of Connected Communities, my primary job when I was hired 5 years ago was to listen. This rezoning request is part of Connected Communities' comprehensive neighborhood plan, which is the culmination of 5 years of listening, community engagement, data collection, and synthesis. We work across 4 pillars because evidence-based practice states that's what it takes to break the cycle of poverty, and we strive to do so through anti-racist community revitalization and equitable resource coordination. Our housing committee has been working closely with several key partners to evaluate vacant homes as candidates for rehabilitation and has completed a comprehensive parcel-by-parcel analysis to assess the vacant lots in our neighborhood. The strategy involves a division of labor based on each partner's mission, their strengths, and resources available to bring to the Beechwood and Emma neighborhoods. Outside of perhaps the Josana neighborhood, Rochester has not seen this level of coordination across housing, education, health and wellness, and economic development. These coordinated efforts have led us to this moment here today. A key recommendation stemming from the Rochester 34 plan is to update the city's current zoning code, seeking better alignment with the proposed character areas mapped in the placemaking plan, which is part of the Rochester 34 plan. As you know, the citywide rezoning efforts is in its very early stages and will take time to complete. When listening to community members, there was one consistent message that would repeat over and over: just do something. We are doing more than just something, and we need to do it now for all the technical reasons that my colleague Jenna will share with you in just a moment. But we also need to do it now because the aftermath of COVID, the needs for affordable housing have skyrocketed, and people need hope now more than ever. To expedite a new residential construction atop city-owned vacant property in line with this neighborhood's planned recommendations, we are asking that the city advance the interim rezoning residential properties. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenna Lawson. I'm the Housing Project Manager at Connected Communities. Thank you for considering the zoning amendment for 767 properties in Beechwood today. I've been working on this project since I started at Connected Communities 3 years ago, and I'm grateful for the support and advocacy our city government has undertaken to support the efforts in line with our comprehensive neighborhood plan. The question that has resonated with me the most from working with the city and helping prepare the proposal that you've been presented with today is why now? We're well aware of the long-term efforts for citywide rezoning on the horizon in the next few years, but the truth is Beechwood can't wait. And every time we delay this proposal, we delay investment in this community. We know that single-family exclusionary zoning demonstrably perpetuates the racially inequitable legacy of redlining. It has diminished the stock of multifamily and single-family rental housing. Since the city's demolition tracker went live in 2017, 10 homes were demolished, 4 of which were multifamily homes. That number doesn't even include the 16 rental units on Laura Street that were demolished to make way for the proposed police substation that has been put on hold. Under R1 zoning, there are no financial tools or housing strategies that we can pursue to restore or recreate those missing rental units. But that need for rental housing among residents doesn't disappear when units are demolished. Instead, the competition among renters for the remaining units gets a little bit tighter. If you're to look on Zillow right now, there are 6 units listed for rent in all of Beechwood, a neighborhood with approximately 3,500 households and 7,800 residents. 2 of those 6 are priced at a luxury rate, making them unaffordable for the majority of neighborhood residents. A single-family home listed for $2,500 a month doesn't help homeowners, and it doesn't help working-class renters either. But that's the legacy of single-family exclusionary zoning. The high demand and limited supply allows less scrupulous landlords to raise rent and lapse on maintenance, both of which cause harm to our residents. Additionally, the legacy of exclusionary zoning is evident in the over 140 vacant lots in our neighborhood that I personally surveyed through this effort. Right now, we sit at a delicate intersection of disinvestment and the threat of gentrification. This proposal is not a cure-all Band-Aid for the history of structural inequality that our community has faced, but it is a necessary first step to ensure that we invest in renters' and homeowners' futures so we can be proactive.
My name is Maureen Duggan, and I'm the chair of Connected Communities Housing Committee. I'm speaking to you today in support of the proposed zoning realignment for a section of the Beechwood neighborhood. Over my career in economic and community development, I've thought a lot about what constitutes a real neighborhood. I often think back to my grandparents' house in South Buffalo. It was a double. My great-grandmother and great-aunt lived in the first floor flat, and my grandparents raised their family on the second floor. To me, it had a huge and scary basement and attic. The houses on their street were close together and many were doubles. Their neighborhood included a park, churches, schools, a hospital, lots of corner stores, bakeries, and lots of taverns. I loved visiting my grandparents. Their house and neighborhood seemed much more interesting than the 1950s single house I grew up in. It wasn't until I was much older that I understood how my great-grandmother lifted her family out of poverty and provided stability and a safe haven for 3 generations because of that house. I'm sure intergenerational living wasn't always easy, but it had its advantages. Childcare involved my mom and her brothers going downstairs to be cared for by their grandmother. It also allowed my great-grandmother to age in place with the help of her daughters. The family saved money by living in that double, not a lot, but enough for a car and college education. Enough for my grandparents to retire with dignity when the time came in the mid-1980s to finally sell the family home and live in a small apartment. I came to understand why my mother felt so isolated in the house I grew up in. In that suburb, you couldn't easily walk to church or school. There were no stores nearby and no bus routes. Cars became an expensive necessity. That South Buffalo double, which was built around the same time as many of the houses in Beechwood, retains zoning today that continues to allow for double dwellings, multiple family dwellings, and accessory dwellings. I like to think of another family living on 41 Salem Street, perhaps renting out one of the flats or having extended family living above them. I like to think of them saving money, being close to family and services. I hope today there's a little girl making great memories there just like I did. In conclusion, we have an opportunity to return a section of Beechwood that experienced significant disinvestment to R2 zoning. This will allow more families to have the opportunities that my family still benefits from today. Thank you.
If there are no additional speakers, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you for coming.